Thompson to Clark is back, and there's actually a decent amount of news, some innuendo, and we'll actually start with a little bit of innuendo, which is the Giants, according to MLB Network, are the favorites to sign Shota Imanaga, whose posting period ends on Thursday. And so that tweet went out earlier today. And you said you actually watched the segment on the network.
Yeah, I did. And then a lot of people kind of picked up off of that, like John Boy Media, what is it? The MLB trade rumors, all those kind of jumped on that. Again, I don't know if there's anything concrete other than the fact that they seem to be the favorites for him. I've seen comments that, the Giants are going to go too far in on a guy who's a 4 or 5 starter. I don't know if he's a 4 or 5 starter. I was watching some video on him, some of his pitches and his pitch dynamics and velocity and everything else on a lot of his pitches. And I don't know, man. I think he's a solid number 3, maybe even number 2. Pair him with a Blake Snell, possibly, Jordan Montgomery, possibly, Kyle Harrison. If he turns into the number 2 or number 3 that they're expecting, possibly even a number 1, then you've got a solid 1-2-3 combo. And then when Cobb comes back as well in May or June, I think May, right, is what they're saying for Alex Cobb.
Mm-hmm.
So the rotation could look great by the end of the season, especially with Robbie Ray in there, and with Imanaga. But again, Imanaga is another guy from Japan who's like 150 innings pitched. But I guess I was looking at numbers, and every time I see 150, I think, God, that's low. But that's the new norm. Like 150 is good. Like you want that. I've always thought you want 200, you want 180, 190. But 150 is the new norm.
I mean, and it's the same questions that we had about Yamamoto, which is adapting to the baseball, adapting to the 5-man starting unit rather than the 6-man, like is the norm in Japan. So there's going to be tons of things for them to figure out. And as we saw last year, they have a lot of people who they will throw in the starting rotation if need be. And our hope is that they will have to do that less and less this year. Yeah. And some of that is based on, some of that is based on some of the pitchers that they have. Now, we'll talk about Robbie Ray here in a second, because that was a big deal. And it's sort of out of nowhere because we didn't hear him attached to them in any way. And I heard Farhan on the Tim Kawakami podcast recently, and he was just talking about how, that this free agent period, he's just like, gosh, there's no urgency on the other side to sign any of these deals. So then they went out and they're like, hey, if we can't, just to make sure, let's go trade for a pitcher in case that guy that we can't get, for whatever reason is out there. But I would love to see them get Imanaga. I would love to see them even add another guy if they can't get that bat. But that bat is going to be necessary, and we're going to have a fun little segment near the end of this show where Brad is going to show why who the Dodgers just signed is not even better than guys that we have on our team. So that'll be our Bitter Giant segment, because those Bitter Giant segments are just living on YouTube right now. The Dodger fans are coming to find us just to argue with us about why we're wrong.
They attract the moths, the Dodger fan moths to a flame, man. They don't. Dodger fans don't like you talking bad about their team, even though they're stacked and packed. I mean, they've been like that for 20 years. They haven't won a darn thing, but I think that's what makes them angry.
I think they're a little worried. And so I know this because I have a buddy who's a Dodger fan, and he thinks that because they're so stacked, there's just so much pressure on them. And so there's just a bigger place. It's just even more glorious of a fall when they do. So, Yeah,
And
so
you can't call those guys. You can't call the free agent pickups independent contractors either. Even though Dylan Hernandez himself, a writer for the Los Angeles Dodgers, called them independent contractors. Even a player in the clubhouse had mentioned that they're all independent contractors trying to win a championship. But if you tell that to Dodger fans, woo,
yeah, they don't like that at all. Not at all. All right, so let's talk about this Robbie Ray trade. It was, again, like I said, kind of out of nowhere. None of us saw this coming. And Robbie Ray, I think the reason why he is off the radar a little bit is because he was hurt all of last year. And I think he made one start. Is that what it was?
I believe so. 1 or 2 starts, and then started kind of feeling the pain, and then went in for the old Tommy John, and so that's why we don't see him till July, which is a bummer. I mean, because it's one of those things you see it. You make a trade for a pitcher like that, and you go, "All right, we got a former Cy Young Award winner," and then you forget, and then you see the blurb at the end coming off of Tommy John.
Yeah.
Won't be back until the All-Star break, and you go, "Oh man, yeah, I forgot about that."
In his 2022 season, which is where he made the bank, he was okay. He wasn't great as he was the year before in Toronto. The year before in Toronto, you're talking almost 250 strikeouts in less than 200 innings. That's how great he was
Right.
at missing bats. And his 2022 season in Seattle still struck out a lot of folks. 212 strikeouts, 189 innings. So you're talking about that 150 mark. Well, Robbie, the last 2 years before he got hurt, was around the 190 mark, which is really good. And he's not walking a ton of guys while striking out a lot. So again, fits the Giants what they want. They don't want to put guys on base necessarily because in a game where your home stadium is all about pitching, the less you put people on for free, the better. But then last year, 1 start into the season, 3 innings, and he was done. And now we're waiting for him for a half of a season in 2024 before he's even going to be ready. Post All-Star break is what they're saying. So the trade in of itself, you can look at it from the Giants' perspective and go, well, they didn't really give up anybody that made fans upset, right? Now,
Right.
we probably like good disco better than most of the fan base. Anthony DeSclafani goes
True.
goes into this deal the third year of his original $36 million deal with the Giants, and he's been disappointing because he can't stay healthy. So he's been a bit of someone who the Giants fans like to kick around a little bit just because he can't stay healthy. So no more disco to kick around, Giants fans. And then somebody who was a major disappointment last year as well in Mitch Haniger goes back to the Mariners. The Giants had too many outfielders. And, this one specifically was the right-handed hitter that they wanted to, they gave what was it, a 3-year deal last year too, right? To,
Right.
to hope
I
for
think
him to be.
was it opt out after 2?
That's a good question.
I'm gonna
Yeah,
look
I'm not
that up.
exactly sure. So Mariners bring back 2, send 1. The Giants even sent over a bunch of cash to make things work a little bit better monetarily. The Mariners love receiving cash. It's
Yeah, they do.
like, here's our players. I wonder how much cash it would take for us to get J-Rod out of there. We'll give you.
I think there's an amount. I don't think it's one of those untouchables. I think with Dipoto, I think there's probably an amount.
So overall, you're only getting Robbie for half of this season, and he does have an opt out, but he's probably not opting out. I can't imagine after Tommy John and half of a baseball season.
That'd be tough. Yeah.
It'd be very interesting.
He'd have to pitch lights out.
Lights
to
out.
the point where his velo's back, because what was he, forcing fastball guy, like upper 90s on the gun, lives off of the fastball and the slider. So is that are those pitches going to come back immediately to be dominant? I think he added a sinker, which the Giants probably, yeah. And again, when you're coming off of Tommy John, if you're looking at it and you're thinking he can be a fastball sinker guy, he also has a changeup. He also has a curveball that I think I was watching an interview, and Greinke had taught him the curveball. I mean, he already threw the curveball, but Greinke had said, I guess Robbie Ray went to him and said, why are you so effective? Because they were with the Diamondbacks at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you so effective with your curveball? And when you watch Greinke throw his curveball, it's like 51 miles an hour. and he total different windup too. He just steps into it and tosses an eephus 51 mile an hour curveball up there. And so Robbie Ray started dropping in his curveball at like 71 miles an hour. So you're talking 25 miles an hour off. And he actually got a little effective with the curveball. So curveball, changeup, yeah, I think it's a circle change. That four-seam fastball. But again, he lives off of that four-seam fastball. That's his most effective pitch. So are you going to get that back after Tommy John in July, August, September? Probably not. And I'm sure he's going to be limited a little bit too. So I would imagine as a Giants fan, we probably have to sit here and look and say, look, we have Robbie Ray for the next 2.5 seasons. He's not going to opt out. He has a really nice deal. And the Giants can afford him too. So that's the nice kind of marriage there that's happening.
I will say I'm a little bummed out that Haniger didn't work out.
Yeah,
we were pretty high on him last year. Now, obviously, as has been the case, right-handed hitters in our park just it's a fly ball warning track 9 times out of 10. Even Buster, who's you wouldn't consider Buster a power hitter, but I don't know if Buster hit more than 30. Did he ever hit 30 home runs in a
no, he never did.
Yeah,
No,
so,
I don't believe so.
you got to go back to Kent and Aurelia and Ellis Burks and those guys for right-handed hitters to really be able to hit the ball out of the ballpark. Hunter Pence did okay. Pat Burrell hit some nice home runs, but
don't forget Wilmer.
Well, yeah, Wilmer's solid. Wilmer's he's good for 18 to 20, I guess.
Yeah.
But if you could just hook it down the left field line and wrap around the foul pole, I'm with it.
Yeah.
But I was hoping that Haniger, would be a guy who could hit 25 jacks. And last year was just not that time frame. Are you a little, I guess I would say I'm a little bummed that he was only here for that short time. I would have loved to see him have a nice resurgence this year, but I guess that's what it took to do the deal.
Yeah, I mean, coming into it, we gave a 32-year-old a 3-year deal. So he does have an opt-out after 2. So he can opt out after this season. But again, he'll be 33 going into his 34-year-old season. This year he's making 17 mil. Next year, or the year after that, the opt-in year or opt-out year, 15.5 million. Yeah, I'm bummed because I like Mitch Haniger and I like his power. He's one of those guys that you always look at and you say, man, that guy, if he can get on, he can crush bombs. Wilmer had 23 last year, by the way. And I think Buster's most as a Giant, with the Giants, only team he's ever been with, is 24. He had 24 one year. So I was hoping Mitch was going to be the right-hander who could hit 30 bombs. I've always had that fascination of seeing him and like, oh man, I would love to have that guy on our team. We had that shot. I'm bummed it didn't work out. He hit 39 home runs in 2021. But other than that, he's only hit 26, and that was in 2018. Before that, anything else is in the teens or below. Because he's always hurt. He's one of those guys who just, is always getting banged up. So for that reason, I'm not sad to see him go. We need guys who can be on the field. We just need that durability and we need defense. So this kind of frees up the shot for Conforto to be in left field. Conforto's hopefully now healthy again after the shoulder surgery, can make the throws from left field, can start to just crush bombs this year. So that, it really does just kind of free up outfield spots, and it frees us up a spot for Bellinger if we can get him. That would be awesome. I'm still okay with Bellinger. I know so many Giants fans are like, but he was a Dodger. It's like, yeah, I completely understand that. You know who else was a Dodger who became a Giant was Dusty Baker. So I can flush that off. Oral Hershiser, we accepted him for a year.
By the way, I said 95 on Oral Hershiser. I was way early. It was actually 1998.
Oh, 98. Okay. So 98 was, yeah. So I did go in 98 to see Hershiser pitch on opening day at Candlestick. I think it was upper deck, right field. I mean, way like right center field, above, that little extra extension that hangs out for football where when the bleachers come out, it connects to that, like above that from what I remember. And I still have that banner too, which is kind of cool. I used to buy pennants like opening day. And then I think the 1987 Giants NLCS team, I bought a pennant that had all of the names on it and everything. I hang all those in the garage. I have an Anaheim Angels pennant hanging in the garage because I went to an Anaheim Angels game one year and they played against the Mariners. We were down in Anaheim in Disneyland, a bunch of friends, and we go, hey, let's go see a baseball game. So we sat in center field, and every time Griffey came out there, we were the only ones out there, shirts off, bacon in the sun, and we just kept bowing to him every time Griffey came out, and he would like wave back to us, and it was a great day.
I have a Ken Griffey Jr. story as well.
Oh yeah,
when he was in A-ball playing for the San Bernardino Spirit.
Yes.
Against the Giants. I went to a doubleheader.
This is in San Jose.
And, he is the biggest thing out there. Like, you didn't have to follow prospects to know that Griffey was coming.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that's his only year that he even played in the minor league system. So it's doubleheader. And we had gotten his autograph on like the little 1-sheet program that they used to give you at San Jose Giants games. So we're talking like 1988, 89, sometime around there. And then they play the games. He's trying to break up a double play at second base. And John Patterson, people remember John Patterson.
Oh, yes.
He was at second base. Griffey Jr. barrel rolls into John Patterson. And at that moment, I took my autograph and I scribbled over it.
Oh, no, you didn't.
I did.
Oh,
and I'm not sad about it. You can't be. I'm a middle infielder, man.
Yeah, I get you.
You can't. I don't care who you are.
Yeah.
You're going to barrel roll and possibly injure the second baseman on a double play that you're not even breaking up. Like, to me, I was like, okay, this guy, I'm out. But, Griffey Jr.
Dwayne Kuiper would have walked out there had he seen it and maybe, busted Ken Griffey Jr. in the chops. He played in San Bernardino in 88. And also in 88, he was in Double-A. And in 87, he played 54 games in Bellingham, which was a low,
close to rookie ball, probably.
Yeah. So in San Bernardino in 88, in only 58 games, he hit 338 with 11 jacks. I mean, we're talking 58 games. Just absolutely ridiculous.
That was a draw, though. That was I really remember that. Like, that it was a long time ago, but I really remember it. And look, he's not hurting because I scribbled out his autograph, right? I mean, we remember, was it Holiday barrel rolling into Marco Scutaro and hurting his leg in that?
I thought that was the end of the series.
Yeah.
I thought that was the end of the series because it was game one, right? And I thought this is it, man. This turns the whole thing because Scutaro was on fire. And came back and just went back on fire, which was awesome.
Yeah, man. So the barrel roll, all you base runners, don't barrel roll. Just get out of the way.
It's such a Chase Utley play.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Exactly. Okay, so yeah, well, I mean, Robbie Ray is going to be a giant wait and see for us the entire year. There's going to be countdowns. There's going to be updates on how long he's long tossing. all of that stuff. So
At
we'll
least
have
we're going to
to
get some legit answers from Bob Melvin this year. We're not going to get the, the roundabouts from Kapler. We like to see guys do what they do best and blah, 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 blah. So, yeah, we're going to get some Bob Melvin real answers this year.
Davis said he had to look up Rowan's numbers. Not great.
Aaron Rowan? Don't ever look up Aaron Rowan's numbers. You don't need to. They're terrible.
Yeah, not great. I remember Aaron Rowan, the first World Series, the 2010 World Series. My office was very close to, not very close to the baseball park, but we're in downtown San Jose. I mean, San Francisco,
walking distance.
And this dude is in like a tracksuit, walking around the city.
It's very Philly.
And kind of like walking how his batting stance, kind of a little bow-legged, like just like he had a strut and a stroll going on, and I was like, "That's Aaron Rowan, man." Did he go Fresno State,
dude? I think he did, but he played in Philly, right? So maybe he got his tracksuit in Philly.
Yeah.
That guy. Here's another guy too. It's like I loved his gritty play. I loved the way he played center field. I loved the way he played the outfield. And you just wanted him to be so much more.
Face first into the fence.
Yeah. So he went to Fullerton.
Oh, Fullerton, that's what it was.
But yeah, he was in Philly for 2 years before he came to us. And that was the whole thing. That was the allure of getting him. Is 2007 in Philly, he played 161 games. He was an all-star, got MVP votes, Gold Glove, hit 27 jacks, hit 309. And then when we got him, he became the real Aaron Rowan.
Yeah.
And that was frustrating.
It's like, who's this Andres Torres guy taking all my reps?
Yeah, exactly.
Why are his jeans so tight?
And bedazzled too. They were bedazzled.
So earlier today, Ken Rosenthal wrote a semi-long, it wasn't the full article, but he did write about Matt Chapman and the possibility of one Matt Chapman coming to the Giants. And we've talked about this. In some instances, it makes sense. In others, it doesn't really, because it's not like third base is a position that the Giants don't have folks there. But, part of the thinking was, if you look at Matt Williams was a defensive stalwart for the Giants, in addition to just being a great power hitter. But, he was like the man with the glove. And Bob Melvin continually says, we need to get better on defense. We need to get better on defense. That's like kind of the foundation. And so Matt Chapman is excellent defensively. And so I think it makes some sense. But you do kind of wonder, because of that low batting average, and I guess there's somewhat of an excuse because he had a finger injury that really tampered him when his stats just fell completely off.
Yeah.
Also has a little bit of experience playing for a Farhan Zaidi team, playing for Bob Melvin, playing for Matt Williams, who was a coach on an A's team that he played on. So there is some connectivity there. But I think Chapman would be a guy that would make some sense. But ultimately, I think most Giants fans would just think that he's overpaid based on what he's done. And I'm not sure that's the kind of signing that's going to excite the fans, like we said, that we sort of needed. Obviously Ohtani and Yamamoto and even Bellinger to an extent, just because he's pretty dynamic offensively when he's playing well. Those are kind of like, maybe we'll get a few more people in the ballpark. Now we'll see with Lee. There's a possibility with his style of play and his charisma that he can be an easy fan favorite.
Oh yeah.
But I don't know.
I think he already is. I think that's where you have to put him.
As long as he plays good, though, the Giants are not. The Giants fans are not going to think that he's someone who's going to put butts in the seats if not playing well.
Right. But
But
what I'm saying is I think he comes in with being the fan favorite, and it's his job to lose at this point.
sure.
Because he's one of those guys too. He's the exciting guy. He was high on the list of free agents. The Giants finally landed him. I don't give a crap how much we overpaid for him, because I think we had to overpay for somebody at some point. So yeah, more guys like that. So a Matt Chapman type of guy. He's the exact opposite. He's going to come in, like you said, he's going to come in and have to win that fan favorite.
Right.
He's going to have to do a lot. And I think he can, though. That's the thing, is he's the type of guy who can.
The worry for me is if his numbers were that bad in Toronto, this park is not a happy park, as we just said, for right-handed hitters. And he will have to adjust. So that automatically kind of puts him behind the eight ball a little bit. But on the other end, I think the Giants fans are pretty smart, and they would recognize how good he is defensively, especially with all these ground ball pitchers that they have. So I think we would still get a lot of value out of him. I just wonder what the fan appreciation would be if he starts slowly. That's kind of worrisome to me. And some of it is just in spite of everything else, right? You're just kind of frustrated with this season already, and it hasn't even started. The rich keep getting richer with the Dodgers, and we keep getting shafted by these free agents. And so I think naturally the fan expectation, there's probably going to be some short tempers this year. There's probably going to be some possibility of boos if the Giants don't come out well. And so I like Matt Chapman as a steady guy, but I kind of wonder if he's better if your team is kind of good and they need that veteran, they need that professional to help them get over the top, sort of like Longoria. The Giants, I think that when they brought in Longoria, they were absolutely hoping that he was going to be better than he was. But you bring him in for that professionalism. You need some grown-ups, guys who've proven it in the past. But, with a team that is at 500, I just don't know. I mean, is Matt Chapman the right guy to bring onto this team?
I think so. I think absolutely he is. And I think for that reason alone, the fact that he is a professional, he has played for Bob Melvin, he has played for Matt Williams. Melvin, Matt Williams, and Matt Chapman all bring a sense of professionalism, sense of clubhouse cohesiveness that we completely lost last season. And you mentioned a name that it is not a coincidence that it happened after Evan Longoria left.
Yeah.
Things just completely fell apart. Logan Webb said he himself, he used to look around at those guys, Buster Posey, Brandon Belt. And that's another one too. Brandon Belt wasn't there last year. And Brandon Crawford, he's struggling through an injury riddled, rough season. So he's got his own things going on. And Webb said he used to look to those guys, to know how to act, to know if you're in a losing streak, what do you do? So to have a guy like Matt Chapman, who's been around for a long time, and Bob Melvin and Matt Williams, and add a guy like Blake Snell, possibly, again, another veteran. And Bellinger, I know he's only 27, but he's been around a long time, and he's won a National League MVP. And he's been on a Dodger team that continues to win and win and win.
The scary thing about
World
Bellinger
Series championships, but just
there's a stat, and I think it's an exit velocity stat. Have you seen this with Bellinger?
I have not.
Like, the exit velocity numbers for his really bad season and his really great season were like almost identical.
Were they really? But he had the hole in his swing, so there you go. That was his really bad season.
I'm sure his contact rate was a little bit better.
Yeah, the busted wrist, or was it shoulder, so whatever it was that he was coming back from, that the Dodgers had no patience for. They were like, sorry, dude. But that is pretty amazing. And same with Jock. Jock's exit velocity was probably the same every single season. Last year, highest on the team and one of the highest in the league, but just he had a Jock Peterson bad year. So
Yeah. Some of that is obviously based on luck.
Yeah.
So Chapman, we'll see if Chapman happens. I just thought it was very interesting that on the same day that Andy Baggerly wrote a story of Bob Melvin and Matt Williams and their friendship, that the discussion was also about Matt Chapman, who, like we said, played for both of those guys and does kind of fit the gamer mentality of Matt Williams. And it's funny because like we were goofing on Matt a couple of years ago when the Giants did the bunting while winning, and he was so mad. And Bob Melvin was pretty mad too. And we created the Gabe Kapler index. I forget what we called it, the heat index or whatever.
The
haters. Yeah, whatever it was. And it's so funny because I also forgot about this. That's what it was. I forgot about this, which is Bryce Harper, while playing for the Nationals, he hit a ground ball and he didn't run it out, and Matt Williams like benched him for it.
Right.
And you're like, wow, like can you do that today? Like, could you actually bench guys for not running, that whole thing? But that's just who he is. And so we're bringing back sort of that gamer that, they knocked Wilmer down. Kyle Harrison, you got to go after the next, like that kind of mentality. I don't know if baseball still exists in that form the way that it did when we were younger, but
I think a little bit.
It's a little fun to think about that, because it's kind of the baseball that we grew up on.
Yeah, for sure. And I think with Melvin and Williams, we're getting a little bit of that back. So we're going to get that mix. And this is what fans have been clamoring for. So I know you said, fans could boo if things don't quite go right at the beginning, but I think there might be a little more patience this year, because it's a new regime, because there's going to be a lot of new players. There's going to be a lot of new leadership in the clubhouse, I think, when it's all said and done. And we know what type of season we had last year. I can only see the fans going nuts if we come out of the gate at like 10-25. Then there's going to be a lot of questions of what are we doing on it. But I can't see this team. It's probably going to be another 500 team, maybe even a touch over 500. Again, free agency is not over. And what are we, like 4 weeks away from spring training and free agency? The big names are still out there. Scott Boras, come on, man. Just
no deadlines here.
Yeah, get your guys signed, man.
Do you think Crawford hasn't made any announcements? He hasn't said he's playing. He hasn't said he's retiring.
I think he said he wanted to explore things. And with the way he's exploring things, you'd think he has Scott Boras as his agent. But
okay, here's a question. Now, I'm not saying this is going to happen.
Yeah.
But a lot of these reporters think that the Giants are going to sign a backup shortstop to and more of a utility guy is what I saw in today's article by Rosenthal.
Right.
More of like someone who can play multiple positions. Now, Brandon Crawford was solely a shortstop. There was some talk of him moving to third if the Giants got Correa. I'm sure he could play second base if he wanted to. But I do wonder if there is some weird avenue for Brandon Crawford to come back as a backup, just for him to kind of rewrite the wrongs of last year. That dude was not in shape. He could not stay healthy. He was maybe one of the slower runners in the entire season. I don't know if any of that changes. Like, his body is his body as he's in his mid to late 30s. But I do wonder if there's a small little chance that, come spring training, the Giants are like, gosh, we need another middle infielder. And Crawford's like, I'm right here and I'm ready. And it'd be interesting. And then I don't know. I don't imagine it happens. And I would actually bet on, in a couple of weeks, him actually retiring and then getting the big Giant send off
Yeah.
But it'd actually be interesting if he was like, "Hey guys, I can play," and they're like, "Well, we are looking for like an infielder to kind of play, coach up Luciano here a little bit." That would actually be awesome, by the way. Baseball doesn't always work like that,
Right.
but you don't really see that mentor thing going on. But it'd actually be kind of cool if Brandon Crawford's like, "Yep, I'm here for one more year. I'm backing up Marco, and I'm teaching him everything I know."
I could see that happening if he retires and comes back as a spring training coach or something like that.
Yeah.
The Giants, I mean, they've said, I don't know how many times, they want to get younger and they want to get faster. And he
Works
ain't either of
against them.
those. He's not either of those two things. So, I don't see it happening. There's probably a guy out there that the Giants could look at and say, "Hey, look, this is our option. This guy can play second. This guy can play short. This guy can play third." Because you look at Casey Schmidt, he could do all those things, but he's young, and you don't want a young guy and another young guy.
Okay,
So
Tim Anderson or
yeah.
Brandon Crawford?
Yeah. I mean, I'll take Tim Anderson in a heartbeat. I'd take Tim Anderson. That's not saying I love Brandon Crawford, but Brandon Crawford, he came back. He had that one fantastic season, and then he came back, and it just hasn't been able to replicate it.
Yeah,
and he was never that guy either. So.
He can't catch up to the good fastballs anymore either, which is
it's
a little bit sad to see, but that's baseball. That's how it works.
Yeah.
All right, last thing before we get to our Bitter Giants segment here, which is Sean Manaea signed a deal with the Mets, and he's got a 1 year and then an opt-out for the second year? Is that what the deal is?
Yeah, same as what he had with us, so 1 year. I don't know what the financials are on that one. I haven't.
Yeah, I didn't see anything on that either.
But
another guy that I think we enjoyed for the time that he was on the team, big dude, kind of Jimmy jacked around a little bit in the rotation, and I'm sure he was not happy. And I'm sure at the same time, the selling point by Farhan, if he wanted to bring him back, which we always thought was a small possibility, was like, yeah, we're not gonna bounce you around. If you're starting pitcher material, you'll stick around in the rotation a little bit. But yeah, I that one I was a little bummed when you sent me that text. I was like, I secretly was hoping he was going to come back. Like, let's say the Giants were in on Snell and in on Montgomery, and all of a sudden they're like, well, we couldn't get those guys, but we're bringing back Manaea, who fits kind of the mold of those guys, even though he did not have the type of season, obviously. But big lefty, power lefty, he can strike some guys out. So, but he's with the Mets, so goodbye to Sean Manaea as well as DeSclafani and Mitch Haniger, who I feel like we barely even met Mitch. Like Mitch, played did he have 250 at bats or something? Like
no, he had
know him.
Yeah, 211 at bats with 6 home runs, hit 209. Yeah, I wanted to see a healthy Mitch, but I think maybe the writing was on the wall after the first season, and I think Farhan was like, "Yeah, we're not going to see healthy Mitch."
Yeah.
So if we can get rid of him and get, unhealthy Robbie Ray, who was a Cy Young Award winner, and see what he can do in the future, let's do that, because the fans pretty much let him know they weren't a big fan of the so you got trifecta. What's after trifecta? What's 4? I don't even know. Is there a word
sombrero?
For that? Sure. The golden, actually, this fits well. The golden sombrero of, Manaea, Stripling, Conforto, and Haniger. Fans let Farhan know we didn't like that. That wasn't, you don't get judged, but you get those 4 guys and you go, and then you come into this season and you don't get Shohei, you don't get Yamamoto. And so at this point it was kind of like, well, here, now we got you a Cy Young Award winner. I know he's coming off of Tommy John, but we're going to see what he can do. So I thought it was a good move. I hate to see Disco go. I like Disco, but again, really wasn't that good the last couple of seasons.
You know where Disco went wrong with the fan base? When fans were like, wow, that's a really cool nickname, Disco. And he's like, it's not really my nickname.
Yeah, he goes, I don't like it.
Yeah. Like lean into the disco, like bring a disco ball into the locker room. Like,
Yeah.
come on, man.
I'm an honorary Paisan because my wife's Italian, her family's Italian. So I like disco because he's a Paisan, and he plays Sinatra while he's warming up. So that I will always love him for that. Who else used to play Sinatra as walk-up song? Todd Frazier. That's what
Oh,
I
there
always
you go.
wanted Todd Frazier to be a giant, because I thought anybody who listens to Sinatra and has Sinatra as their walk-up music, I want that. But yeah, so I'll miss disco. I'll miss Hanniger. But, again, it's a good movie. You got to free up that space. You got to clear up some roster spots. So you lose 2 40-man guys and you pick up 1 40-man guy. So you have an open spot now. So you don't have to do a lot of finagling if you make say you do go get Imanaga in the next day or two. Then you don't have to worry about a 40-man roster spot at that point.
All right, before we get to our Bitter Giants fans segment, I will just mention quickly what I'm drinking, because it's something that I've had before. As I told Brad and I told everybody else, this is the year of the Manhattan for me.
Yes.
And last year was the year of the old fashioned, which means I have some old fashioned mix still left over in the refrigerator that I need to get through. So I had some of that today. I'm already at the end of it. So I'm just finishing that. I think I got two more glasses of it left before I'm done with it, or I just may pour it out, just because who knows if I'll ever get to it. But yeah, so I have the old fashioned, the pre-made cocktail from Trader Joe's as my drink tonight.
Nice. I gotta try those sometime. I went Scotch because it's the new year and I like Scotch. I don't need an excuse. I went with the illicit still, the Glenlivet 12. It always gets so blurry. What's it? You think Apple could figure this one out? Glenlivet 12, illicit still, single malt. It is tasty. It is meaty. Really tastes the sherry in this one, because it's. My hands are a mess. I was trying to fix the car yesterday in 15-degree weather, and I shredded my hand. So I've got liquid Band-Aid on my entire hand. It's fun. Anyways, back to the drink.
What is liquid Band-Aid?
Liquid Band-Aid? You've never used liquid Band-Aid? Oh my God. When you get these cuts like this type of stuff, that guy.
Okay.
Right
Yeah.
It's this liquid Band-Aid. It's kind of like glue type of stuff, but it has antiseptic in it, and it burns like a mother. But you put it on there and it closes the wound. After like a day or 2 or 3, it starts to kind of peel off.
Does it wash off? Okay.
Yeah, and then it's healed underneath. But you can get it wet and everything else, but it works for the cuts and stuff really good. When you live in dry climate like this, dry cold weather, you get these hand cuts on you like that. And then I got another, and that was the chunk from the car, and that was the cat. So it's a combination of everything on that hand.
Very interesting. Yeah, I've heard of the glue thing. Like when people get cut open, they'll glue the wound.
Yeah,
back.
crazy glue. You can actually do crazy glue.
If they don't have the opportunity to go get it stitched up, they just glue it.
No, liquid Band-Aid, it changed my life about 10 years ago, because the problem is you put on a regular Band-Aid with Neosporin and then you go to wash your hands and the sucker's going to come off. Well, at least this is somewhat waterproof for like 2 or 3 days. So, and by the time it peels off underneath, it's like, oh my God, the cut healed. It's, it's not bleeding anymore and any of that stuff. So that stuff works great. Yeah, anyways, that's what I'm drinking. And then I told you all about my goofed up hand.
Yep. All right, last segment here. So the Dodgers made another move. They signed Teoscar Hernandez for $23 some odd million for 1 season. So they had another right-handed bat, another outfielder. And before we even had an opportunity to be sad about it, you had sent me a text and you go, you didn't say it this way, but you basically sent me some information that was like, well, guess who's better than Teoscar Hernandez? His name is the Yasmanian Devil, Mike Yastrzemski.
Baby Yaz. Yeah, we got you don't need Teoscar Hernandez. Of course, I'd love to have him on my team. But you don't need to have him because if you've got a guy like Mikey Yaz, right, Baby Yaz, he has a lifetime 114 OPS plus. Teoscar Hernandez, lifetime OPS plus 118, only 4 better. Last year, Baby Yaz 113 OPS plus. Last year, Teoscar Hernandez 106 OPS plus. I know it was in Seattle. Don't give me this about Seattle's stadium and all this other nonsense. I think he only had 2 months in the entire season last year where he had an OPS of like above 800. All the rest, it was just kind of like garbage the rest of the season. Of course, he does pound lefties. That's what he does as a right-handed hitter. But again, when you have a guy like Baby Yaz who's also has MVP votes, Teoscar Hernandez, he did have some MVP votes. We'll give him that, 2020 and 2021. But again, that was in Toronto. Now he's over in the National League. Never seen National League pitching before, other than in interleague games, but he's mostly an American League player. Baby Yaz had a OPS plus in 2019 of 122, 2020, 164 when he had his MVP votes. Last year, 15 bombs. Teoscar Hernandez, he had 26. But again, those were on the road. That was not at home in Seattle. So bottom line is, when you have a guy like Baby Yaz, you don't need a guy like Teoscar Hernandez. That's just a filler for your lineup. We got to go out and get other guys, other outfielders, because that's the thing. That's going to be their big outfield pickup. Mm-hmm. Ours is going to be Bellinger. And Bellinger's going to hit 40 bombs and hit 332 on the season. When's the last time we had a guy? When was the last time we had a guy other than Buster who finished like top 10 in batting?
It had to be in Bonds, probably, when he won. Won the batting title.
Yeah, that's probably it, because I think Tyro was threatening like the first half of the season last year.
He fell off a little bit.
Yeah, fell off, got hurt, all that good stuff. So anyways, we have our own Teoscar Hernandez. His name is Baby Yaz, and I guarantee you he has a better season than Teoscar does.
Guarantee.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's got to get enough at bats, though. That's the problem.
It's pretty big. I want to say there was the season that we were talking about with Scudero. He came to the Giants and he hit 360 in the 268 ABs after they traded for him. But he had only hit 271 in Colorado. I wonder how close he was in the batting title that year. That would be interesting to go back and look at. I don't know.
What was that? 2004?
2012.
Oh, 2012. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So that might be, he might have been in the top 10.
2014. I'm thinking of infielders. 2010 was the year of Jonathan Sanchez. 2012 was the year of Scudero. 2014 was the year of Little Joe Panic.
Oh, yeah. There you go. All right. So one other note about Yastrzemski, and people are thinking like, oh, Brad's throwing all these numbers, and what does these numbers really mean? And do you have to know all these analytics to follow this stuff? Well, we can even use some simple ones, such as WAR. Hernandez had a 2.1 WAR last year. Yastrzemski had a 2.4 WAR. Hernandez almost had double the ABs of Yastrzemski, but he only hit 11 more home runs. When it comes to on-base percentage, Yaz was at 330. Hernandez was at 305. Slugging percentage, Yaz was even a tick higher at 445 versus 435. So while we are selecting specific statistics to make Yaz look a little bit better maybe than most people will look at him, you can even look at the common stats, the back of the baseball card stats, and see that he's a very comparable player. He doesn't have the reputation because he wasn't a top prospect like Hernandez was when he was younger. going up through that Blue Jay farm system in 2016 or whenever it was. And, Yaz was a guy who was just through the minors, constantly grinding. But the other thing that I like, and I may like this one the best, Hernandez cost $23 million, and Baby Yaz is going to play for $7 million this year. So, there you go.
Exactly. Yeah, because I think Teoscar was like slated to be around 15, 16 a year for like 3 years or whatever, and then he was like, "Well, I can go to the Dodgers, and of course, they can defer my payments because who likes to get paid up front? Who likes to get paid all their money at once, right?" So he's deferring $8 million of that. So he's technically playing for the $15 million. But again, the deferment doesn't start until 2030. So I don't know what this magic number of things starting in 2030, 2031, 32, 33 is for the Dodgers, other than there has to be some sort of financial comparison that says in 10 years, when we start paying him his extra $8 million, it's really only in today's dollars, like $4 million, $3 million. So we're still getting him at a discount lower than the price that you're seeing. But yeah, I don't even claim to try to be a financial guy. So
yeah, I think it's just about making the interest on that money. And then when you actually do have to pay that guy, then you're probably paying a lot of it is just interest.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So that'll be it from here. We will be back next week, and hopefully we'll have some news with more signings and maybe hopefully some bad. Can the Dodgers have some bad news? Can we get bad news on the Dodgers?
Yeah, well, obviously we don't want to wish the bad news to be injuries.
Right.
But maybe like, I don't know, they found out all of this money that they're promising people was like drug money or something. I don't know. Maybe we could do that. Yes.
This was a good one from more Katna, who's watching. Very much appreciate you. Yaz will defer his batting. That was a good one.
Yes, he will. He will. He'll hit 330 this year, but he'll defer 130 of that until 2030. So he'll really hit 200. Poor.
I say,
Friedman.
Can Friedman get the chicken pox or something like?
Shingles. He's old enough for shingles, right?
Yeah, it's not.
I shouldn't say that. I haven't gotten my shingles shot yet, so I shouldn't say
that's
that.
bad karma. We shouldn't say that.
No.
Maybe a plantar fasciitis.
There you go.
You can live. You're fine. Yeah.
It's painful, but you can still do everything.
Yeah, Friedman gets a little plantar fasciitis injury and is walking around with a limp.
He's not an NFL running back, so it's not like he doesn't need his plantar or his fasciitis.
All right, last thing. I almost forgot. Rams-Lions prediction.
Man. I was reading up a little bit on this today. I haven't really dove too much into it. It's going to be tough, man. That place is rocking. I did see where there's a group that's trying to get together that's trying to ban Stafford Lion jerseys from being worn in the stadium. Nobody wants to see those. I did see a fantastic, I got to send this to you because you're a wrestling guy, but it was the little video clip of the Undertaker laying in the casket in the middle of the ring. And who goes up to him? I don't know who that is.
Brock Lesnar, probably.
Brock Lesnar
they start
goes
laughing at each other.
I think so, but he like leans in and looks, and then Undertaker grabs his throat. But somebody threw Stafford's face on him, and then Goff on the other.
Okay, there you go.
So I don't know. I gotta go. Man, I think the Rams could pull it off because I think
Lions are only favored by like 2.5 points or something like that.
Yeah, and I think it's because of all of the experience. There's not going to be much jitters for the Rams players. I mean, they have a lot of young players on defense, but you've got Aaron Donald who's been there. You've got
running
Stafford.
back. Your running back's a new young player.
Kyron's in year 2 or 3. You got Puka, who's
their first big games for those.
But
guys,
you got Cooper Kupp, and you've got a lot of guys who've been there for a while, and a lot of guys who have the ring. So I think the Rams go in there, and I think they probably win this game. I think it's going to be high scoring. I think there's going to be a lot of scoring. I think the Rams are going to win it 30-24.
So Davis said that he believes the video you're talking about is the Undertaker grabbing Randy Orton.
That's who I think it is. I couldn't tell because the faces were over them, so I didn't know who it was. It's fantastic.
And if the Rams win that game, there's a good chance you guys come to San Francisco.
Yes, because I don't think Green Bay is going to go into Dallas and do a whole lot of anything. So
yeah,
so this could get us that rematch.
For me, that's the worst matchup is Rams-Niners. Now, it'll be fun for us. What I'm saying is a worrisome, the Bucks, for the Bucks to beat the Eagles and the Bucks to come into San Francisco, that would be like the game where I'm not too worried. But yeah, Rams win that game. There is a little bit of worry there because it's for all the reasons that you said. Veteran team knows how to win, is not going to be phased by the bright lights in the playoffs. And your quarterback, man, your quarterback is a beast.
So. And Aaron Donald on that defensive line, I mean, he just rallies everybody and gets everybody going. That guy is. So again, I'm going to hate it when he retires or leaves the Rams, and it could be it could be after any year at this point, because he's always said, yeah, I want to play about, I don't know, 7-8 years and then walk away. And I'm like, well, we're right there. So, but yeah, I think the Rams pull it off in Detroit, and then head to San Francisco, man. I was going to say, what's your prediction for this weekend for your team? But you don't play. You got the luxury, man. You guys have the luxury of sitting out. Does that worry you? That they're not playing, that they're
it may have worried me, except for the fact that Kyle Shanahan teams are pretty good off of a bye.
Yeah.
So that makes me feel a little bit better. And, this season is long now. So you got all these, Eric Armstead has missed the last 40% of it, and we're hoping that he's back. So if that helps him get back, then all good, and crossing fingers. But for the most part, they're coming into the playoffs fairly healthy. So that's the other thing of good to not have to play, because then guys who may not be 100%, they're trying to play because it's the playoffs, and then those guys could get hurt too. So
I'm so happy yesterday that the game just ended with no major crazy injuries.
I'm surprised Carson Wentz didn't get hurt for all the times just putting his head right in the pile. Jeez.
Yeah, and that's the problem too, is he's our backup quarterback. So if something happens to Stafford in the game this week, we need Carson Wentz. So, but at least that's kind of the cool thing about the game yesterday too, is that McVay got to kind of work in these extra plays and some fun stuff for Wentz.
Yeah, it's not anything that you're going to use against us either. So he's like, I'm not showing you guys anything. I'm going to have Carson Wentz run quarterback draw 14 times.
And that's the thing, is if Stafford gets hurt in Detroit, you bring in Wentz. Wentz isn't going to all of a sudden be Stafford. He's going to go into Wentz mode, and he's going to run the ball 15 to 20 times. So that was fun. That one touchdown run that he had, I was surprised he barely even got touched. I go, oh my God, haven't seen that from a Rams team in years. So that was fun.
All right, we will be back next week on Monday, talking more Giants baseball. For the rest of this week, I think I got one more show with Brian before he goes on vacation. Not actually vacation, business trip. He's going to London for work.
Business. Look at this guy.
Business. Whew. And so we'll talk Warriors.
Is he big time in us, man?
Yeah, he's going to be gone for 2 weeks.
Wow.
And then we have Rod and I are not recording this weekend for We Want Winners. We're going to instead probably do 2 shows next week. We'll do the preview show and then the post game show. So lots of stuff still happening, but Brad and I, the longest standing podcast on this network, I think we're at 192 episodes.
Whoa, we got to do something for 200.
Yeah, we're close. We're closing in on 200.
I'll do 200 and just write 200 on a piece of paper and go 200.
Like the Will Chamberlain.
Yeah. I think I did that for our 100. I think I just held up that was. I won't do that. I'll do something nicer. Yeah.
All right. Thanks everyone for checking us out. For Brad, I'm Double G. We will see you when we see you. Peace out.
Peace.